Hello, and welcome to the Muse Lab, your destination for all things spiritual, sensual, and pleasurable. Here I explore the nuances of our human experience, connect with practitioners to support your glow up, and share my lessons and blessings as perspective to move you closer to alignment and self-empowerment. I invite you to join me on this adventure of discovery and hope what you receive inspires you to become the muse of your life's journey. So without further ado, let's explore. Hello, and welcome to the Muse Lab podcast. It's your girl, Siobhan L. And at the time of this recording, it's May. It's Masturbation May. I mean, mental health month, yes, but also masturbation May. And I realized that of all the topics and things that I've shared on this podcast, I've never actually gotten deep into navigating sex in my 40s. I've talked about dating in my 40s, dating while having ADHD. I've talked about my life as a person living with endometriosis. I've talked about all those things and how they have affected briefly, I haven't even done a deep dive, but briefly how all those different elements have affected sex in my 40s, but I've never actually just talked about sex in my 40s or my experience with sex overall. And I felt that for those of us who are in the perimenopause bracket, I think it's very apropos that we have this discussion and that we keep having these discussions, because what I am learning since becoming 40, and I transitioned into the 40-40 club at the height of the pandemic. I call it season 2 of the pandemic is when I transitioned into my 40s. And prior to that, I hadn't had sex with anyone. If you follow me on the regular social platforms, with the exception of the letter app, you may have heard me say, I'm celibate, but not by choice, by happenstance. Like, I didn't choose the celibacy life. Somehow the celibacy life found me, and I've been here for quite some time. And I don't like it because I am a sexual being. The challenge is that when you do the work to begin to heal yourself and become more self-aware, when you become more kind to yourself and very selective about who enters your body, it then makes having sex a challenge, because you start having conversations with people, you start becoming more attuned to reading other people's energies, and it can just be one word. One word, and it will turn your coochie off so fast. It'll go so dry, like Sahara Desert dry. And if you're in your 40s, you're probably already having challenges with wetness as it is. So to finally connect with someone physically, right? Having a physical attraction to someone, and you're in their atmosphere and things, the conversation, the energy is flowing and it feels good and it's starting to incite and arouse your body. And for them to say something that is totally left or problematic or just one of the isms, and your body just immediately shuts down, it's just so disappointing. It's so disappointing, especially if you're trying to get back in the game, right? If you're trying to at least have sexual arrangements and sexual experiences with people you may have been out of practice for so long. I mean, it is kind of like riding a bike, but you've been out the game for so long, and you finally meet someone that you want to break that cycle with and open the door for you to have more physically pleasurable experiences, and they just kill it for you. And I've had that experience, I don't know how many times. I'm going to say unfortunately, but it's probably for my own good. I have not been sexually active in 3 years. And one of these podcast episodes, I talked about your clitoris shrinking if you are vulva owner. Your clitoris, if not active, will unfortunately shrink. And your labia minora will experience atrophy and will infuse into your vagina walls if not active. So there's a lot of conversation about celibacy and preserving yourself. And this isn't to say that those things are wrong. However, I do encourage a solo sex practice because we have to keep our organs active. This pseudo vow of piety and chastity, and believing that if we abstain from sex, that is going to make us more pure and more closer to ourselves. Maybe so, but also maybe you bending it back and busting it open and getting slutted the fuck out will do the same thing. Maybe that'll do the same thing. My point is to not think that there is only one linear path to higher consciousness or higher self, right? There are multiple paths to higher consciousness and higher self. We just have to figure out the ones that work best for us. But as it pertains to sex, there's so much conversation around those of us who encourage women to be sexually sovereign, right? I like to refrain from sexually liberated. And I refrain from sexual liberation because, yes, it means you're free, but does it indicate that you are autonomous in your experience? Like, yes, being sexually liberated means you're free of maybe societal norms, maybe your upbringing, narratives around sex that you have been brought up with, those antiquated mores and rules and things of that nature. You may be free from that, right? Free to choose your own path, free to create your own curated experience. But does that indicate autonomy? Does it indicate sovereignty? I feel like it doesn't. I did a blog post some years ago about me divesting from saying sexually liberated and embracing and embodying sexual sovereignty. For me, sexual sovereignty is more than just saying I'm free. I'm free to fuck, or I'm free of these norms. It really, for me, centers around creating narratives or creating the experience, like owning the experience, not using the stories of sexual liberation from others and centering myself in that, but as someone who is sovereign of themselves. I then shape what sex looks like for me. There are many of us who are sexually free, but still adhere to the sexually free narratives that other people have created that don't necessarily resonate with you, but you may feel like you need to embody those things because I'm a sexually liberated person and that's what I do. But when you're sovereign in your sexuality, when you're sovereign in sex, you can look at those stories and those narratives and go, yeah, that sounds cool, but that doesn't really resonate with me, and feel autonomous enough to create your own experience. Sometimes liberated doesn't always mean free. But when you are sovereign, when you own yourself, you're not bound by whatever type of new age, antiquated, or whatever type of rhetoric that other people are sharing across the interwebs and the media. You're not bound by that. You are in ownership of yourself, autonomous of yourself, and you just create your own path. You own that, whatever it is, right? Even if you adhere to the stories, the narratives, the rules of what it means to be sexually liberated and how it is defined currently in this timeline, even if you adhere to that as someone who is sexually sovereign, you own that you adhere to that. You own that you are polyamorous. You own that you are into kink. You own that you choose to be monogamous. You own those things. You don't just follow it because it's the thing to do or it sounds cool. You own that. You stand on business. That's for me, that's what it means to be sexually sovereign. I own my experience. It's not necessarily shaped or influenced by what's going on around me, but if something resonates with me and something feels good in my spirit, if something or a practice, it sparks me in some way, I own that. And when the shit don't work for me, I own that shit too. Maybe I tried to be poly and it just didn't work for me. It doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. It just means it didn't work for me. That's the other part of being sexually sovereign. People in the sexually liberated category, they still have their own biases towards other forms of sex. Some people will say that they're sexually liberated. I'm celibate and I'm abstinent, and will shun those who claim to be celibate and abstinent and still engage in solo sex. Well, you can't be celibate and engage with solo sex. Yeah, I can. Because I'm having sex with myself. Celibacy doesn't necessarily mean abstinence. At least I don't think it is. If I'm abstaining from sex, then yeah, I may be abstaining from sex with others and myself. But as someone being celibate, at least in my definition of what it sounds like or what it feels like in my body, for me, celibacy means that I am stepping back from having partnered experiences and choosing to commune with myself and understand myself, my body, my spirit, my wants, my needs, my desires. And when I'm ready to re-enter into society, I have a clear view. I have a clear definition of what it is I want, so that when I'm having these experiences with other people, when there's a possibility for sexual arrangements, I can then communicate what that is. Me abstaining from sex doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing the work to figure out why I'm abstaining or what the reason is. I could just be abstaining. Most of us abstain once a year. If you are Muslim, Ramadan is fasting. It's a form of abstaining. Lent is a form of abstaining. So from a spiritual perspective, those of you who follow those faiths, you abstain once a year. If you are practicing a new diet, if you're on a nutrition journey, you may be abstaining from sugary foods. You may be abstaining from carbs. If you're working out, you may be on a high protein diet and you may be abstaining from other foods that prevent you from reaching your goal weight or reaching whatever goals that you're having from a nutrition standpoint. You are abstaining from those things. Whether you allow yourself to re-enter those things back into your life, that's a choice. When you abstain from something, essentially at some point you bring it back into your life. Unless you cut it out completely, that's not abstinence. That's removal. So in my opinion, how we use these words are very important as it pertains to our sexual experience, right? Because we'll get into a very self-righteous space and we'll wag our finger at other people who choose to navigate these type of concepts and experiences different from what we may know them to be. So I do my best not to be judgy towards anyone. I'm not perfect. I have my moments. But I do my best not to be judgy towards other people, because I know that things like celibacy and abstinence may have seemed like blanketed statements because that's how we were brought up to understand how these terms work. But growth and wisdom has taught me that these experiences still need to be customized to fit the person and where they are at this time. So here I am in my 40s, celibate. Every time I say it, I get aggravated. Every time I say that I'm celibate and I haven't had no form of partnered sex in 3 years, I just get so aggravated because who the fuck am I? Like 20-year-old me is pissed off. 20-year-old me is pissed because, girl, who am I? Who have I evolved to be? I get a dick in my 20s and 30s. Oh, wait, you know what? I'm going to keep it a buck. Once I hit 30, once I turned 30, I was not involved with multiple partners, because at one point in my 20s, I was involved with multiple partners. Not at the same time, but that's just kind of how the rotation happened. I had a rotation. That's just kind of how it happened. And there were instances in my 20s where I almost got married twice. I've been proposed to once and worked towards marriage twice. Actually, 3 times, if I'm going to be honest. I was young though. And I'm glad I did not move forward with that. You know, God and the universe was doing their thing, and maybe some ancestors as well. My great grandmother, a lot of people was working in the background, making sure that I didn't place myself in positions of harm, because had I moved forward with those 3 men, who knows where my life would be. We were not collectively, but they specifically were not in a space to be in a long-term relationship with somebody. And one of my exes got like 5 kids. Ex-wife, 5 kids. I don't know what he's doing with his life now, but last time I saw that motherfucker on Facebook, he had like 5 kids, and I was like, dodge the bullet. So sometimes you got to praise God for keeping you out of situations that you thought were in your best interest, but were never in your best interest and would have dragged you into the depths of hell. Sometimes you got to praise for being able to, or having been removed from those situations. So I think about who I was in my 20s and my 30s, but it was around the time that I turned 30 that I went from being with 2 to 3 people in a year. May have had sex multiple times with those 2 to 3 people, but it was 2 to 3 people, and it went from 2 people to 1 person, and it wasn't often. In my 30s, I found myself in and out of situationships with folk where I would end up being 6 to 7 months celibate. One time, I intentionally abstained from sex. And that was supposed to be a year, and it ended up being 2 years. And I vowed I would never intentionally do that to myself again. That shit was hell. Oh, that shit was hell. And I was actually dating someone in the midst of my abstinence and my celibacy. And that motherfucker tried to convince me so hard that he should be the one. And thank God I dodged another fucking bullet, because no ma'am. That would not have been a good choice. And I chose to break my abstinence streak with someone who I trusted. So also that maybe there's someone in the back pocket that you trust, a good friend that you maybe have messed around with years prior, and you two have maintained a relationship. Sometimes that person is the person, because they'll provide you with the gentleness that you need. They understand your body. You know what you're going to get. It's not going to be a surprise. And they're not necessarily looking for anything. They're there for you to have that experience and provide you with emotional safety that you can express, so you don't feel awkward. Because I feel like if I had broken my celibacy or my abstinence streak with some random guy, that would have been a very awkward experience for me. And I probably would have been disappointed, because like, oh my God, I'm staying for damn near 2 years. I had this lackluster experience. That might push you back into celibacy. And most women have had that, right? They have decided this is going to be the time. This is going to be the guy, and the experience is lackluster. And it's like, why did I even open my coochie up for business in the first place? Grand opening, grand closing. And then you go back, and you may cycle back into a celibacy experience where you're just reveling in disappointment. And often that could create a barrier between you and other partner experiences, to where you don't want anybody to touch you. And then you become touch deprived. And then you become more aggravated because you're touch deprived. You ain't had an orgasm in who knows how long. And you haven't developed a solo practice for yourself. So I know a lot of women in their 30s and even in their 40s are navigating these celibacy-like experiences. And I feel like it's important to have a clear mindset and clear goals on what the purpose is, as opposed to just saying, well, I'm just going to be celibate because, I'm doing too much, or I'm doing this. But are you doing too much? Are you doing too much? Or maybe you just not clear in your direction. Maybe it's not too much. Maybe it's just not clear in your direction. Maybe you need to take a step back and determine what you want. And maybe the celibacy journey or the abstinence journey experience is an opportunity for you to get clear on your goal. I didn't have that. I didn't choose to be celibate to get clear on goals. I'm celibate because ain't no good dick around. Not in my atmosphere, but also I've been in the house. If you ain't been outside, that could lead you to be abstinent or celibate by circumstance and not by choice. So what I'm recognizing as I am traveling deeper into my 40s is that, one, I'm feral. Oh, bitch is feral. I'm feral. And there are so many opportunities for me to, at least I see them as opportunities for me to at least have a great sexual experience. But the men are like, oh, I don't want to mess up our friendship, which, okay, sure. Sure. And yes, every time you have a good sexual connection with someone, it does not necessarily mean you have to act on it. I talked about this a couple of years ago. Sometimes your sacral energy as a woman, femme of center, sometimes your sacral energy is so strong that you are just magnetizing motherfuckers that way. And then it does not necessarily mean you need to physically act on it. Maybe there's a creative project. Maybe there's just creative energy. Maybe there's some other form or some other way that this energy and this frequency that is very magnetic between you and that person is supposed to evolve and manifest into a specific way. It doesn't always mean that y'all have to have sex. I'm here for that, right? But I'm gonna say it one more time, I'm feral. I have moments where my libido is through the fucking roof and moments where my libido is like meh. And I just want to have some balance in my life. I want to have some balance with it. And I want to have sexual experiences with penis owners that are fun and in depth, juicy, sensual. And there are a few men in my atmosphere where we could get that done. These things could happen. But I recognize that for me, a lot of men see potential. Gonna take me back to American Fiction. Was it Centra Golden? I think that was Issa Rae's character. Potential is what you think you can do with the same opportunity. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what her character said. So when I think about how men see potential in me, it's if I had this opportunity with you, or if I could direct the way our relationship is unfolding, then great, I can be in control. So when I think about how men see potential in me for a business relationship or just a platonic friendship, it makes me feel like they want to engage with me sexually, but feel like they will be out of control if they do. So they choose to be platonic with me in order to maintain control of how the relationship unfolds. And that shit pisses me off. It pisses me off because why are you trying to control me? Control yourself. Don't control me. Don't try to control how the relationship evolves because you're going to fuck it up. And if I had 50 cents for how many times a man has done that, it could have been platonic. It could have evolved into that. But because they tried to force it into a specific category, they fucked it up. You can't force something that's supposed to be organic into a specific category because, at least in my eyes, you alter how the evolution or the timeline, you alter how things are supposed to unfold. Like decisions and choices that we make determine which path we're on to get to our goal or to get to the destination, whatever the destination is. Our decisions and choices determine what we gonna see, how that path is gonna unfold. as we are heading to our destination, whatever that is, right? So if there was an opportunity for us to be romantically involved and your one decision pivoted that, then don't try to circle back to me later and be like, oh, I was really feeling you. Yeah, you was feeling me like 3 months ago and you friend zoned me. And now all of a sudden you realize, damn, I shouldn't have friend zoned her. Maybe I could circle back for some pussy. No, you can't. Because you done fucked up the timeline. Your decisions and choices always determine how events are going to unfold, leading to whatever the destination is. That is something that I believe. And there are too many men who I come in contact with where it can evolve into something romantic. Sometimes I want it to. Sometimes I'm open to how it unfolds or how it happens organically, but it can evolve into something romantic. They so quick to friend zone a bitch, trying to hold on to something pure and pious and chaste. I want this pristine porcelain-like friendship. Like, I don't want to taint her with my whatever, my fuckboy ways. Well, then you need to get your shit together. That don't got nothing to do with me. I know my girl, Coach Bellamy, Aisha Bellamy, she said in our podcast, how to be your own best friend, that oftentimes men give us a green flag that sounds like a red flag, but it's a green flag. So yeah, you're going to have men who be like, nah, you shouldn't fuck with me. I'm a no shit type of nigga. That is a green flag and you should listen to it. In the same instance, I feel like there are men who purposefully turn something into a red flag or don't allow the green flag to evolve and then it becomes a red flag because they just couldn't be honest with how they felt, because they felt out of control, and because they felt out of control, they disrupted the energy and the frequency that was about to organically happen. So I find myself in those situations often as someone in their 40s who has experienced that pretty much the majority of my adulthood. It gets frustrating. And I find myself at an impasse on whether or not I'll ever. I always think, is this the year? Is this the year that I'm going to have great partner sex? That someone is going to slut me the fuck out, push my face into a pillow, smack my ass, tell me I'm a good girl, choke the fuck out of me. Like, is that going to happen? Is this the year? And I'm just disappointed. I'm tired. I am tired of being disappointed because despite the fact that I'm in my 40s, despite the fact that I have ADHD, despite the fact that I have endometriosis, and at this time cannot bear seed from my womb, I still believe that I deserve good sex. I deserve that. I deserve that as a thinking, feeling, sensing being. I deserve that as a human. I deserve that as a woman. I deserve to have my sexual desires fulfilled. I do not always want to transmute my shit into something creative. But I used to be on that kick too. That used to be me. Oh, take that sexual energy and alchemize it and transmute it. Nigga, sometimes I just want my pussy ate. Sometimes I just want my pussy ate. I just want to come. I just want to feel orgasmic. I want my body to shake and shiver. I want to have good sleep afterwards. I want to have nice aftercare. I want one motherfucker to get a warm rag and rub my coochie down. I want to be cuddled. I want to be kissed on. I want that. I want those things. And I don't necessarily have to be in a relationship to get it. I've opened myself to that, right? I've opened myself to not having to force myself to be in a relationship with somebody in order to have that type of experience. Sometimes it could be a one-off experience. And that's what me and that person was there to do. I've opened myself to that and not tried to force my sexual experience where I'm at now in a box that if it doesn't meet all of these criteria, then I'm not doing it. Because then I feel like, at least for me, that I exclude myself from so many different types of experiences that I can have, so much good sex that I can have. And then I'm circling back to the space of, well, I ain't had no sex and da 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 da. It was like, yeah, you haven't, but you had an opportunity to have these experiences. And because you're a bit closed off or closed minded about how it could evolve into or how it could be, you talked yourself out of an orgasm. And I don't want to talk myself out of an orgasm. I don't want to place myself in a space where I continue to deny myself pleasure, deny myself my desires, my experiences. I do not want to do that. I want to remain open to that, and I want to remain open to how it looks. But also, I have an idea in my head on what I want. So if I need to vocalize what that is, I can tell you what I want. And whether or not said person can provide that for me, that's a bridge I'll cross when I get there. But if you ask me what I want, I can tell you what I want. I mean, I just went through a whole montage. I just went through a whole montage of visuals in word form of what I want, of what I desire. And I would like to do it often. I do not want to have all these one-off experiences. I mean, no, I don't have to necessarily be in a relationship, but I would like to have a partner who I do those things with and evolve in my sexual experience and on a consistent basis. Like, I want consistent dick. And maybe relationship dick is consistent dick, but I want consistent dick. It could look like relationship dick. That's nice. That just means you like me. If the consistent dick looks like relationship dick, it means you like me. Because I also want to have sexual experiences with people who like me, with men who like me. Because there's too many men out here fucking women they don't like. And they just using our bodies to masturbate with. And I don't think that's fair. It's not fair for us. Like, if you think lowly of your penis, that's your business. But you're not going to disrespect my pussy. Because she'll dry up like the Sahara. She know when a motherfucker is into her. She knows when the energy is top tier. She knows, my body knows when the person who I'm about to engage with is gonna be on a game. Because if you're not on your game, my body will shut the fuck down. Nothing you touch is going to arouse me. Nothing. And I'm a full busted woman, so niggas always start with the titties and fuck it up. Because these are just decoration. They're here for show. My breasts are not an erogenous zone. So, men always see large breasts and they automatically think, oh, they must be sensitive. They're not. You already have to have my body aroused in order to touch my breasts and continue the space of arousal. If you start with the titties, you're going to fail every single time. There are a lot of men who don't care about your body and your pleasure and your arousal, who are free fucking and creating these horrible experiences for women that may often send them into a space of celibacy and in a space of abstinence because they keep hitting brick walls. And to that, I say that may be a prompt for you to get clear on your goals and how you want to experience sex. That's how sex in my 40s is evolving, or is going, right? I don't want to say it's evolving because it hasn't evolved yet. It's going. Sex in my 40s is going nowhere because I'm not even having sex. But at the time I did have sex, the two encounters that I did have, one was okay, wasn't subpar, it was just mid, but the other one, oh, that was amazing. I connected with a gentleman who I became friends with. And I had expressed me wanting to reconnect with masculine energy and really start to invite that type of energy in and open myself up to dating and having sexual experiences. And he and I established a relationship, and he created space for me to explore what that would look like for me. And my God, I wish I could go back to him, but I can't. There's so many reasons why I cannot, but I wish I could, because Good Lord. That was amazing. I still think about those moments to this day. And that was the last sexual experience I had. Praise be. But because that was the last sexual experience I had, the bar is high as fuck. The bar is high because he set the bar high. It wasn't like bare minimum, it was above and beyond. And I feel like that's important for all of us women in our 40s who are re-entering society, coming off of a space of abstinence or celibacy. We have to set the bar high, or at least be with someone who sets the bar high, because that then sets the tone for what type of experiences we are trying to magnetize towards us. And we know that we can't settle for less, because if we settle for less, then we're going to lower the frequency, the magnetic frequency for the experiences that we want, and get the shit we don't want. I recognize that when you set a standard for yourself and you start to go below the standard, now everything that's below that standard finds you. And everything that's above the standard, where you're supposed to be raising yourself up, it can't see you, because now you've dropped below the standard and you're out of the purview of everything that you actually desire, and everything that you don't want can see you. I hope that visual is helping somebody. You have a standard. Your goal is to stay on that or raise it. So everything that is either at or above the standard can see you. The moment you drop below that standard, everything you don't want now finds you, and everything above that can't see you because you've gone below the standard. That's in everything that we do across the board, but particularly in our sexual experiences, you got to step back to your baseline. You went below the baseline. We cannot go below the baseline, especially women in our 40s, because for a lot of us, we are either in menopause, postmenopausal, if you're like me, with stage 4 endometriosis, or in perimenopause. So the way our body chemistry is interacting with us, or interacting with the world, is so different. Either our libido is high as fuck, or it might be mid, or it might not be at all. You might feel like you don't have any sexual desire because our estrogen levels are wonky. Our hormones overall are wonky. We're losing estrogen. Progesterone is kicking in. Like, there's so many things that our body is starting to decrease from that makes having sex so challenging in so many ways. Shout out to you if you're in your 40s, late 40s, 50s, and you still got that gushy. Shout out to you. A lot of us don't. A lot of us need lube. And there's the stigma around lube that, oh my God, if you need lube, then you're dry. First of all, you can have a wet coochie and still use lube, because at some point your coochie gonna dry up. If you all that friction happening, your coochie gonna dry up at some point. Lube is going to keep things going. Lube is gonna keep the party going. Lube can also start the party. Some of us, raising my hand, some of us need lube to start the party. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with utilizing tools to enhance your sexual experience. And I believe, particularly us women in our 40s, need to be in a space where we can destigmatize utilizing tools, lube, vibrators, other type of sexual toys, adult novelties. We need to destigmatize that, because they are there to enhance our sexual experience, to push us further into arousal, to push us further into an orgasmic space, as tools to enhance, not there to replace or deter from or take away from. So taking the stigma away from these tools can open us up to a broader sexual experience. And for those of us in our 40s, a lot of us are looking for that. A lot of us are looking for broader sexual experiences. Maybe you might need to go do a threesome. Maybe you might need to connect with someone in the kink space and go to a dungeon or go to a play space. Maybe you might need to do that to push the boundaries of your sexuality, because the shit that you was doing in your 20s and 30s is not necessarily going to satisfy you in your 40s. You have to broaden what that looks like for you. Maybe you need to get spanked. You may have challenges squirting. Maybe it's because somebody didn't smack your ass right. Maybe you need a little fire on the nipples. Maybe that arouses you. Maybe you need a feather across your body. Maybe you need somebody to do that classic fingering and have you by your throat and talk shit to you. Maybe you need that. Allowing ourselves to explore other means of arousal that aren't necessarily penetrative would be great for us in our 40s, because you may be in a space where penetrative sex is not doing anything for you, or you may not want to have penetrative sex at all. There are so many other ways you can get yourself to orgasm without having to stick something in you. That's important for us women in our 40s who are looking to deepen our sexual practice, deepen the way we have orgasms, our arousal, our sensory experiences. Being open to other points of arousal is going to be so important for us. And it's still, your clit still works. You're still using your vagina. Your labia is still there. But essentially all those things do shrink. So keeping them active, one, let your body know that, hey, we're still open for business. And two, it stimulates those muscles. It stimulates those glands, because the vagina is the muscle. So, yeah. Sex in my 40s, for the moment, is non-existent. But I'm hoping that this is the year that I break the cycle and it becomes existing. And I at least, bare minimum, have one consistent partner that gives me good relationship dick, who I can explore and do all the cool things with. Open to having, no, I'm not open to having multiple partners. I was about to lie. No, I'm not. I don't have the energy to do that. I don't know how I did that shit in my 20s and my 30s. I don't know how I did it then. But I don't have the energy for that. If I meet someone who's poly, that's your business. That doesn't stop me from being involved with that person. I'm just not going to be in the polycule, because that's not where I'm at in my life. I'm not there. But long as we do the right precautions and keep ourselves protected, I'm cool with it. You're part of a polycule, that's fine. That's not going to turn me. It's not a turn off for me, right? So I'm open to who I meet and the type of experiences that they're having, where they are in their life. But I would like to have consistent penis. I deserve that. And I'll define what consistency looks like for me when the opportunity presents itself. But that's what I want. I want good, consistent dick. I want to have mind-blowing sex. Maybe it's not going to be mind-blowing every single time, but a bitch got to come. I would like to orgasm all the time. I would like to orgasm at least 90% of the time. I think I deserve that. So that's here. That's out in the universe. And I'll circle back. I'll circle back to confirm whether or not I'll wait until after the summer. I'll wait until after the summer. So I'll confirm, because at the time of this podcast recording, it's May 2025. So I will circle back around September, if I can remember, because y'all know I got ADHD. I will circle back around September to determine or to confirm whether or not I had that experience. And if it doesn't happen, I'll talk about why it didn't happen. Make sure I remember that. I'm gonna have to write that down. Or if you follow me on Instagram or on Threads, you hold me accountable. hold me accountable to remind myself of this. So yeah, thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab podcast, and until we meet again.